Well, hello once again from the National Soccer Hall of Fame in Frisco, Texas. John Arnold and Chris Bils continuing to get you ready for the match. We've had a lot of great commentary, great fans excited about this game here on the Striker, Texas, and now it's up to us to bring it home. And one of these teams tonight, Chris, FC Dallas or Austin FC, wants to bring this baby home, the Copa Tejas. You saw it for the first time on the Striker Texas social channels around 3 p.m. We're getting closer to that 7 p.m. kickoff, the final meeting of the regular season, final meeting of 2021 between FC Dallas and Austin FC. It's an exciting moment, Chris. It's almost here. The final match, the Copa Tejas final, is tonight.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. And John, I got to say, your faces never look better than it does now when the San Jacinto star is right in my path of view.
Maybe I'll get it as a tattoo.
This is there you go. Yeah, right in between
right
the
here.
eyes.
I'm sure my fiance would love that.
It's a beautiful piece, though, isn't it? You can check out a piece on the Striker Texas that I just filed and put up before this match. We were just talking with Doug Merrill and his team from the Bolin Company that put this thing together. And there's some links here that are really cool. Actually, some of these intricate designs here, you can kind of see the cattle rope here that was actually made by the same die that did the silver saddle for the Lone Ranger and some of the pieces from the John Wayne movies. So some really cool stuff here with the Copa Tejas, and what's more Texas than a nice silver piece from some guys that mostly make belt buckles.
I'll look forward to reading that piece on the Striker Texas. You can check it out as well. And don't forget to subscribe to the site. It helps us do things like this, bringing you the trophy, the information, etc. Make sure you subscribe over there. Let's talk about the game, Chris. You know, it's no secret that neither of these teams have had the season that they were hoping for. It's not something that really even shying away from talking about. At this point, there's 2 weeks of the season left, and really, this guy is about all that there's left to play for both teams. That's something that I think in Austin you guys have been looking forward to for a little bit. FC Dallas is just kind of wrestling with that fact, but kind of what's the acceptance level, I guess, of that in Austin, and kind of how are they approaching this rivalry game?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been interesting the last few weeks because, honestly, I felt like Josh Wolf was hesitant to even go there to talk about the Copa Tejas as being a real prize, and all of a sudden they beat Houston, right, and they're in position to win this thing, and it does mean something. And I think that is the thing that, if Austin is taking anything, or if I'm taking anything from watching how Austin fans are taking this competition, it's that Texan pride is a heck of a thing to be riding on a soccer match, right? Like, even though there's not a whole lot else left in this season, there's a lot of pride when it comes to the fans who are just starting to file in over here in the corner, that a lot of them have, family members from Dallas. Some of them were even FC Dallas fans at points in the past, and there's a lot of pride here thinking that Austin is going to eventually be the top club in this state is the hope. But right now, they've got to get over the top. They got to beat FC Dallas, or else FC Dallas is the top team in Texas this year.
I want to touch on those past matchups, but before that, I want to mention what you were just talking about, the fact that this rivalry game is sort of a Texas pride or a bragging rights moment, and I think that really mirrors a lot of rivalries we see around the world. So many places in the U.S., we have those rivalries, but a lot of times they're contested in college football or NBA.
Yeah.
And Texas, of course, has some of those, but it's such a disparate sort of, I'm a proud Texas Tech Red Raider. Let's not talk about football this year. But, you see those rivalries manifest in A&M Texas or Texas Tech Texas or Baylor TCU. But this is a local pride thing, and I think it's hard to find those moments. Maybe in the NBA, but even then there's not a hardware on the line. There's not that sort of feeling of representing locally, and I think it is why, at least at the Striker Texas, and I think among the supporters that we've talked to, this is such an important matchup because it does feel like something similar to the bragging rights that you see in a matchup between Boca River in Buenos Aires to control the city, even though there's a lot of other teams there.
Yeah.
In Everton, Liverpool, Merseyside Derby, rivalries in Istanbul. Does one continent or the other control the city? Is Manchester red versus blue? I think that, seeing that in Texas for the first time with 3 major cities involved, and all major cities involved when you include the full Copa Tejas, is a really special thing that we should kind of take on and consider.
Oh, it absolutely is, and I'm looking through behind the camera here at Roberto Silva, who's been doing a great job with all these live shows, and it makes me think of the state cups in Brazil, right? Like those are meaningful competitions for clubs that a lot of times you may be playing against a team that is third, fourth division. I don't know how far exactly those go, but it means something to the clubs, in Brazil to take home a state cup, and I think that it should mean something to Texans, especially, somebody was pointing out to me the other day a fact that I probably knew but I had forgotten, which is that Texas is the only state that flies their flag equal to the American flag, which
Is that
is
true?
is that I think it is true.
I believe I wonder.
Okay.
But we can look it up. We'll
Okay.
look it up.
Yeah. Maybe hit us up and tweet at me
Please
and tell me
feel free to
I'm
reply.
not Texan enough if I don't know this
Or I'm
very
not,
specific
for
fact
doubting
that I
it.
decided to bring up on this live stream. But the point is that I think that Texans take a lot of pride in being the best in the state. Houston, Dallas, Austin, these are all cities that, they don't want to be talked down to by anybody,
Certainly
let
not.
alone, an in-state, rival. And it's up to the players and the coaches and it's up to the supporters to hold their teams. And I think that's a lot of what we've seen this year at Austin is, the first time that Austin came up here, there was a lot of fans that came away thinking, is this team really committed to winning this trophy? And I think you're going to see tonight that, yeah, this means a lot. And maybe it's because there's not anything else to play for, but certainly it means a lot to be able to hoist this thing. And I think the trophy itself and seeing it in all its beauty is going to make it even more so.
We'll see if FC Dallas center back Jose Martinez is in the lineup tonight. Maybe the lineups are already out, but when you see someone stroll by, that's always a question. I don't know if you guys caught him there on the live stream. I believe that's who that was, wearing a mask, as is appropriate. But we'll get you those starting lineups here in a second. I think when we look back at the matchup between FC Dallas and Austin FC, so far it's 2 wins for FC Dallas. But remember that matchup in Austin in August, that thrilling game for FC Dallas fans, in which FC Dallas wins 5-3. They enjoy a 4-1 lead going into halftime. That's the last win that FC Dallas fans have been able to celebrate. Things have gone south since then, and I think it's interesting to think about the history that these teams have, even though it's quite recent, the history.
Right.
The season series or the all-time series starts with the season series, and it starts in August. You mentioned that game where so many Austin fans came up I-35 expecting to see a strong Austin team, and instead came away with a disappointing performance from Austin, a 2-0 victory from FC Dallas. Shabot Shun with 2 assists in that game, goals from Ryan Hollingshead and Jesus Ferreira, and then, of course, the 5-3, the last FC Dallas win so far of the season. They hope that changes tonight, but the final FC Dallas win so far of 2021, in which Ricardo Pepi, Jesus Ferreira both put in 2-goal performances. Javier Obrian with a goal. Austin mounts a bit of a comeback, and it ends up 5-3. And after the game, I look back on the striker about what we wrote. Yeah. What did you say? What did I say? What did the players say? What do the coaches say? Because I think, in moments in sports seasons, everything feels so immediate, so important. And then you look back at hindsight, and it's sometimes funny, but sometimes prescient, right? After that game, I wrote, any doubt now that FC Dallas is the best team in Texas? And it turns out there was. Yeah. They weren't able to finish the job of winning Copa Tejas against the Houston Dynamo, and now they're in this situation. And Austin, despite the fact that they have had struggles on the road, they've had 3 wins since FC Dallas's victory down in Austin.
Yeah, they have. They're playing. I would say that they're playing their best soccer of the year. Obviously, they've had a couple hiccups here and there. The game in San Jose pops to mind, a 4-0 loss. But when they're all together, when they're rested and they're playing the style that Josh Wolf wants to play, having Musa Jite in there, having Sebastian Jerussi, a couple months into his tenure here, he made his debut here in Frisco a couple months ago, if you remember, and having him pulling the strings, it's really making all the difference for Austin FC through this back part of the season. But they got to go finish the job. They got to go take care of business tonight and then see what they can get out of these last 2 matches to see if they can, as Josh Wolf puts it, I think that, yes, they want to win Copa Tejas, and these matches head-to-head are important, but they really want to be up the table from where they are right now, above the other Texas teams in the table. I think that's where his focus is.
They could be. They could absolutely do that tonight. Let's talk about tonight's game. What are you looking for, Chris? We kind of did a combined preview for both FC Dallas and Austin fans. Let's go through our key players and then the key matchup that we see tonight. Sure. I'll go first with FC Dallas. I think the key player is Jesus Ferreira. A little bit of frustration maybe in the last game, but he put in another fantastic performance. He's really come into his own this year as a player who didn't maybe fit in that kind of number 10 playmaker spot that he was put in by Luchi Gonzalez in 2020. But he's bounced back well in 2021, started the season injured, and since then has really been phenomenal and has really enjoyed playing against Austin. He scored in both matches against Austin FC. For me, he's the key player for FC Dallas tonight. How will he pull the strings? How will he set up his running mate, Ricardo Pepi? And will he get back on the score sheet? To me, you got to watch Jesus Ferreira tonight if you're watching anybody.
Yeah, certainly Austin better be watching him because they've lost track of him a few different times during this season. But, for Austin, I'm looking at Alex Ring, and it's been interesting to watch this transformation of Alex Ring because you came into the season thinking, okay, here's a guy who's, the number 6, really the only number 6 on the roster for this club until they brought in Sebastian Berhalter on loan late before the season started. But for Alex Ring, he's actually been playing more up the field, more as a number 8, more in the position that is not only on the back of his jersey, but the position that he says that he is naturally until Patrick Vieira made him a number 6 when he got to MLS. And it's been interesting to see because he is very good in that spot, but he's still the best number 6, John, for Austin FC. And so it's like, how has Josh Wolf been able to slot in Danny Pereira, get him used to playing that spot, and Tomas Pochettino, who's been playing further back in a spot that he says is his natural position, which is number 6. So it'll be interesting to see how they line up the pieces. The last match where it went well against Houston, Danny Pereira was playing alone as a number 6 for a lot of that match, which we haven't seen a ton of. And it was... It was, I thought, a very good performance for him, aside from a couple moments, and he needs to get a little bit stronger. He needs to get a little bit more bite in his game if he's going to hold down that position in the future. But let's see what he does tonight. Let's see how Alex Ring looks tonight, and if he can create some moments like he did last week with the assist to Sebastian Driussi.
I think we're going to do some what-if pieces, some hypotheticals during the off-season. That's some prime off-season content.
Yeah.
I was thinking this week as he spoke at an event with supporters, Ulises Segura. Man, it would have been a nice piece for Austin FC to have had he not gotten injured this year. We talk about this kind of, not revolving door, but just trying out different options at the number 6 spot. That's a guy who, could have made a big difference in the midfield, I think, for Austin had he stayed healthy, and some other injuries as well. I'm sure that's something that you'll get into in the offseason. But let's keep the focus on tonight and talk a little bit about what the key matchups are, Chris. For you, what's the biggest battle that fans can keep an eye on for this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's Ricardo Pepi and how Austin can control him. I mean, last game, they were out at sea, it seemed like, trying to play through the back like they've done all year. And Ricardo Pepi, I think you and I came away from that game, that was the best I'd seen him press, certainly in person. And that's a part of his game that certainly he's shown with the U.S. men's national team. And really that was, just another building block for him in this season. But Austin, with Johan Romagna and Julio Cascante, there's no Matt Biesler. We don't think he was probably going to be back before the end of this season. There's only 2 games left, only a week left for him to get back from that concussion. And so, can Julio Cascante and Johan Romagna have 90 minutes where they keep track of one of the best forwards in the league and don't let him get any space? Because if they do, he's going to punish you.
Absolutely. I think that's a good key matchup as well. I think you also look at, I mentioned Jesus Ferreira and how he might battle against Alex Ring, depending on where Ring ends up lining up for Austin. I think that's another interesting facet of this game is kind of how those pieces fit together. Can the Austin FC midfield shut down what's been a very good Jesus Ferreira? And of course, if you're talking about keys to the game, FC Dallas has been ahead at halftime of their last 3 games. They've lost 2 of those, drawn 1, no wins yet in the era of interim manager Marco Ferruzzi. So I think you're looking at, that's, kind of the biggest battle for FC Dallas, not positionally, but simply, can they break through? Can they get a lead and then hold it? Because that's been the biggest issue, and so far unable to see out games, to play a full 90 minutes. And that's not a good thing to be saying about a team after more than 30 games in the regular season. Of course, if you're joining us, we thank you on the Striker Texas Matchday Live here as we're getting you prepared for FC Dallas hosting Austin FC in the Copa Tejas Final decider. Of course, we want to thank the National Soccer Hall of Fame for letting us be in this beautiful venue. If you look, I'm not sure how it shows on the camera. I think it's coming through. World Cups right over there. I always think that's amazing that they let us stand in front of the World Cups. If they knew our reputations, maybe that wouldn't be the case. But and they let us be very close to the Copa Tejas. We appreciate the Copa Tejas team for bringing the trophy here. It looks great. And as we mentioned before, you can read a story on the Striker Texas from Chris Bils about
I was
what
gonna
the
say one
trophy
cool
looks
thing.
like.
Yeah, one cool thing about the Copa Tejas that Ryan Slack, who's the lead designer over there at Bolin, was telling me was that he actually came in here. First time he'd ever been to Toyota Stadium was taking a look at all the trophies behind us, and taking a look at the design principles, kind of trying to get an idea of what a soccer trophy is, and took some inspiration. Maybe if you're here at the Hall of Fame in the future, you can sort of go look and see where maybe he might have drawn some inspirational pieces for this piece, which, I don't know if you noticed this, John, but it's got a tornado in it, which is also harkens
NASL
back.
tribute, huh?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a tribute. You got the state of Texas on the base, and it spins up in a tornado to get that circular shape.
Marco Ferruzzi, the FC Dallas interim coach, a Texas guy, he referenced being a kid watching the San Antonio Thunder, the NASL team, that then after a year moved to Hawaii, and he thought, well, that stinks. I want a team in my city. I want a club that I can support, that I can root for. And now you look at the three top level MLS teams that this state has, all fighting for this piece of hardware. I think it's something very important and adds a bit of spice to this game in a season where, again, it hasn't been what FC Dallas wanted, it hasn't been what Austin FC wanted, and it hasn't been what the Dynamo, who are eliminated from this trophy, wanted either. But it still gives you something to hang your hat on, right? Something to celebrate, something to hold up. We'll see how players react when it's kind of awarded tonight down on the field, but I think people will be pretty happy. I think if you're a player and you've been in this sort of slog, might be harsh, but slog of a season for a lot of these teams, it's going to feel pretty good to have at least one night to say, hey, we did something.
Yeah, I mean, the way I think about it for Austin, and I know that Josh Wolf has been hesitant to sort of go there because there's still 2 games left on the back end of this, and they do still mean something, right? You're trying to rise up the table, but really all the emphasis for the rest of this season has to be on tonight, certainly for Austin FC, as they look at a home, you do want to play well against Kansas City at home, and you do want to play well on the road against Portland, but this is a chance to lift a trophy. This is a chance to give your fans something that they really want badly, which is to claim being the best in Texas in their first season in this league. And anything short of that, I think, is going to be very disappointing. And but the joy that comes out of potentially lifting a trophy isn't something that you can just shake away, even if there's no playoffs at stake, even if, ultimately these are the 3 worst teams in the Western Conference. You still want to lift that trophy, and it would be a very big moment for the fans and the supporters groups that are starting to fill up that end over there. It's going to be a great atmosphere tonight at Toyota
Got some
Stadium.
Potential future homegrowns here in the back saying hello, waving to the camera. Also got the starting lineup out. I'll take you through FC Dallas's while Chris pulls up Austin's if that one's out yet. But Jose Martinez, who we did see walking by here on set, gave us a little wave, a little wink. Injured tonight, it sounds like, or perhaps just chosen not to be in the lineup. He's not in the starting 11, but let's go through it. Jimmy Maurer will play at goalkeeper. Philippe still missing with a thigh injury. At the back, Ima Tumasi takes his spot back at right back after a good showing from Justin Shea in the last game. Matt Hedges and Nkosi Tafare partner as center back for FC Dallas, the first start we've seen for Tafare in several games. Ryan Hollingshead at left back with the midfield duo of Edwin Cerrillo and Brandon Cervenia partnering homegrowns there in the midfield, as Marco Ferruzzi has used since he started coaching FC Dallas. Jesus Ferreira once again is in the playmaking position with Javier Obrian and Paxton Pomical as the starting wingers, and Ricardo Pepi does return to the starting lineup, his first start since suffering a bit of a knock for with the United States in a World Cup qualification game against Costa Rica. He hadn't started since then, missed a game, was on the bench for a couple. We will see Ricardo Pepi from the start tonight, which I know is something that FC Dallas fans, U.S. national team fans, and neutrals who love the game are surely excited to see.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Austin FC fans are quite as excited about that one, but Josh Wolf's going to run back the lineup, the 11 that played last week, which means that Hector Jimenez will likely start on at right back with Johan Romagna and Julio Cascante in between them. Obviously, Brad Stewart playing in goal for Austin FC. And Nick Lima is going to start likely at left back for Austin. And then in the midfield, it's going to be Danny Pereira, who I mentioned before, along with Alex Ring, Sebastian Drusi, playing that number 10 spot where he's been so good. And Diego Fagundes and Cecilio Dominguez on the wings. Last week we saw Cecilio playing a little bit more on the right, which was interesting. We'll see if that wrinkle's thrown in or if those two kind of switch in and out. And then Musa Jite will start up top. And as far as the bench goes, looks like no Rodney Redis, but Kakuta Mane, John Gallagher, Tomas Pochettino, all among those who are available off the bench. So should be a good lineup. And it is nice to see after a positive result that Josh Wolf sticking with his guns, sticking with the lineup that got them to this Copa Tejas final, and left this trophy to play for tonight rather than Houston being able to take it last week.
That's a great job running that down, Chris, because I think FC Dallas' social team makes it a little easier than Austin's to find the positions. FC Dallas is already designed. I think you had to pull yours from a list, so well done. Let's give some final thoughts before we say goodbye to you and get ready for the kickoff of this game. And again, you can find coverage pre-match, during the match, and post-match on the Striker Texas. Chris, we talked about our key players. We talked about our keys. We talked about how important this trophy is. What's the X factor? What's left, and what do you think is going to happen tonight?
I mean, the X factor, I think, is the big names on the field. You always talk about playoff games in this league, and do your stars come to play? I think Sebastian Drusi has a chance to really go after this thing and show his quality as should be the best player on the pitch tonight. And on the other side, it's all about, to me, Ricardo Pepi starting a game, playing at home, potentially. John, his last game at Toyota Stadium, depending on how things go. And, I'm sure he wants to go out with a win and lifting a trophy on his home pitch.
Absolutely. For me, I think that's a great one. The star players, which player stands out. And I think the other thing is a sustained effort. For FC Dallas, not only have we seen them not win in 10 matches, but we've seen them have good soccer on the field, put in good performances, play well, execute the idea that it seems that Marco Ferruzzi wants them to execute. They do that for about 80 minutes, sometimes 85, and then it falls short. So I think for FC Dallas, that's the X factor, is how much effort do you put in? It's certainly not analytical. It's not XG minus XG expected, but there is a little bit of how much do you want it, right? There is a little bit of that kind of motivation because, even Marco Ferruzzi speaking, a question that I asked about positives, and he said, instead of kind of mentioning those things, he kind of ran down a list of why he didn't feel like it was appropriate to say that teams are playing spoiler. I think it shows that there is pride, right? They do absolutely want to have a win. They want to close out strong, and they want to do well and give the fans this Copa Tejas that they're hoping for.
Yeah, should be a fun one. Should be a great atmosphere. Like I said, I can see the Los Verdes and Austin Anthem filing into that section where they were so disappointed a couple months ago, and I know El Matador is going to be bringing it, down here as well. And FC Dallas fans really having, something to cheer about, something to watch in their last home game this season. So hopefully it's a fun one and a good Copa Tejas final in a little bit cooler weather tonight. It feels like playoff weather. No playoffs for these two teams, but certainly something on the line tonight.
This is, in some ways, the playoffs, as Marco Ferruzzi said. I'd like to thank once again Copa Tejas for being here, the trophy, but also the people behind the trophy, and for talking to you about how the trophy got made, the National Soccer Hall of Fame, for welcoming us for this preview show, and for you, of course, for joining us. We'll be back post-game on at the Striker Texas, the social media channels. We'll talk to you guys then about whatever happened, and also have, of course, written content on the Striker Texas. Make sure you subscribe, read our pre-match coverage, enjoy our during match coverage, and check out our post-match as well. We'll talk to you guys then. Take care.
Drives it with the right foot and it hits the crossbars from every wall. As Pepi, Sean reaches it, cuts it back. Hollington! Dominguez can play it to someone. Sean. Oh, he rolls a perfect cross to Jesus Ferreira to slam it home. How about some keys to the game, Warren? Yeah. By Coleman, it's toward the back post.
claim that stake as being the best in Texas.